So our featured speaker today is Claire. And I'm really excited about this because, I was thinking that some days are harder than others. And we're all going through a lot of challenges just keeping up with, I don't need to explain to you what's going on in our world. But I know that I sometimes struggle and just, have some days where I need someone to help and, or I need something to help. And I reached out and Claire offered to talk to us a little bit about something that she's very passionate about that could help us all in our daily lives. So Claire, I'm going to stop sharing here and then I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you, Claire, so much for being with us today as a professional presenter.
Thank you. I don't know about professional presenter, but
you're a professional who's presenting.
There we go. So I'm going to put this on slideshow. So you all probably already know me, unless we have some guests, but I am a local school psychologist and licensed educational psychologist. I work in private practice and also at Rotary Charter School in Arcata and at HSU for the school psychology program. And I went back to school later in life after I could, with 4 kids and a husband. And I got very interested in mindfulness. I really started to practice mindfulness when I was in my internship in McKinleyville School District, and found that it really supported me in managing the stress of an intensity of internship and to actually be better able to serve the people I was working with. So my thesis project for my master's degree was on using or developing a mindfulness practice as a school psychologist and how that supported me through internship. So that was where the mindfulness piece came in for me. I kind of wax and wane on my my scheduled practice of mindfulness, but I really find that just even 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes each morning is incredibly helpful to help the rest of my day go more smoothly. And just real quick, I'm presenting on ACT, which is a mindfulness-based behavioral therapy. So just to let you all know, there are local mental health resources if anyone is having any more significant challenges. Self-help might not be the right thing, but we do have wonderful mental health practitioners here. And with telehealth today, you can really see anyone you want in the state. I'm a big proponent of counseling. I feel like it's no different than going to the doctor for any other condition. I think it's incredibly powerful. So Psychology Today is one area where you can search specifically for an ACT practitioner if you're interested in that, or someone who works with mindfulness. So ACT was developed in the 1980s and 1990s. It originated with Dr. Hayes' work at the University of Nevada, and I believe he's still at the University of Nevada. It has gained ground throughout the world. It is, I believe, the only therapeutic modality that has its own theory called relational frame theory, which is actually pretty complicated. It comes up through the root of behaviorism. So a very simple definition of sorry, I'm going to make my thing smaller here, of relational frame theory is that it's a theory of language and cognition and how these relate to the human experience. Both RFT and ACT are empirically based, meaning there's a lot of really solid research behind them. And ACT is used through many environments, many age groups, really kind of any age group. It's used a lot by the Veterans Administration to support veterans who've had challenging experiences. It's used in schools, it's used in business, it's kind of goes across boundaries and professional areas. So it is a mindfulness-based behavioral therapy, and It emphasizes acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, present moment awareness. These are all parts of mindfulness. It really focuses on living a valued life and accessing a transcendent sense of self. So really understanding that we are not our thoughts and feelings, and we can be separate from our thoughts and feelings. It uses metaphor, which is really nice. There are a lot of visual metaphors and small videos on YouTube that you can watch to kind of grasp the concepts around ACT, things like the sushi thought train or a thought train. I have a few metaphors at the end of the presentation that I hope we have time for me to show you. I forgot to set my timer, so please give me a warning, Maggie. It also uses paradox, mindfulness, and then it's a behavior intervention related to one's values. So I'll explain that more as we go on. The goals of ACT are really to live a meaningful life and to accept the pain that life can bring. It involves committed, mindful action that's rooted in our values, and this leads to a meaningful life. And I really think it relates to Rotary, because in Rotary, we have values, and we value global health and supporting the world and our local communities, and we do things. We have committed action that aligns with our values, and with our participation in Rotary, I think we do add much meaning to our lives. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't do it. In ACT, we talk about private experiences. So those are just thoughts and feelings and memories and such. We all have challenges in life. None of us get through life without difficulties. It's just part of the human experience. And ACT teaches us to accept our difficult thoughts and feelings rather than trying to suppress or avoid them. And it uses mindfulness to be able to do that. So really learning to be in the present moment, learning to be curious and not judge our thoughts and feelings, and kind of observe them is incredibly helpful to being able to accept them. And through acceptance of difficult thoughts and feelings, they actually lose some of their power. So ACT focuses really on a valued life. This is an interesting piece because most therapeutic modalities are focused on reducing your symptoms that are challenging. But in ACT, the focus is not on symptom reduction. That just happens to be a byproduct of ACT. So it's really focused on the assumption that suppressing or getting rid of symptoms is causal to mental health challenges. And the research on suppression shows that when we try to suppress something, we actually increase it. So ACT assumes that describing a private event, that's just our thoughts and feelings, as a symptom leads to a struggle, like an internal struggle. And it's focused on helping us to transform our relationship with difficult thoughts and feelings rather than trying to avoid them. So ACT does not assume healthy normality. Western psychology does. And ACT really looks at the statistics around mental health. In any given year, almost 30% of the population will suffer from a mental health disorder. So that sounds more normal than not. And ACT assumes that human language is the basis for our suffering. Human language is, the mind is a metaphor for human language in ACT. And we learn that human language and our thoughts that derive from this are an amazing tool for planning and predicting and creating and imagining and analyzing. But there's also a dark side to human language that allows us to other people, to see people as others, to be violent, judgmental, prejudiced, and hateful. So not all thoughts are helpful to us. ACT is unique in that it, again, really helps us to not avoid experiences. So as human beings, we are problem solvers. We want to fix things, get rid of it. I'm anxious. I want to get rid of this feeling. I'm going to just ignore it. But in the end, if we're avoiding what we're anxious about, for example, we actually reinforce the avoidance behavior, and it increases our anxiety or whatever feeling it is that we're having. Again, the more we try to avoid or suppress thoughts or feelings, the stronger they become, and this leads to psychological suffering. So ACT uses those therapeutic interventions based in mindfulness to help us stop wrestling with internal experiences. There are 6 core principles of ACT. Diffusion is being able to kind of take the power out of our thoughts, to kind of separate from our thoughts. So say I had the depressive thought, I have no friends. So I could do some diffusion exercises of picturing that on a birthday cake, like happy birthday, you have no friends, or picturing it on a banner behind an airplane in the sky, have a great day, you have no friends. And it just takes the power out of it to be able to look at the thought that way. And then also to be able to accept and kind of lean into our difficult feelings and experiences, to be in the present moment, to be able to observe ourselves and understand that we are not our thoughts and feelings, and they can be separate from us or distance from us. It aligns with, we do a lot of work on values and really thinking about values, and then taking committed action that's based in our values. And I just want to check the time real quick. This is called the hexaflex. So this is just a visual for what acceptance and commitment therapy is. There are the behavioral change processes and the mindfulness processes. And then there are these core features. Again, those are the core values of ACT. So I personally really love John Kabat-Zinn's work in mindfulness, but there are a lot of great mindfulness people out there. He started the mindfulness-based stress reduction clinic at the University of Massachusetts, which we know has been incredibly effective for people who are dealing with chronic disease and chronic pain and such. And he just has a lot of good, good books and information out there. I have kept the book Everywhere You Go, There You Are, which is his writings. I use that almost every morning to read like a small passage that kind of helps me set my day. So there are many expensive mindfulness programs out there. You don't need to do a super expensive program or go to a 2-week silence retreat unless you want to, of course. There are a lot of free resources. My favorite one is the UCLA Mindfulness Awareness Research Center, or the MARC Center. You can go to their website and get free podcasts, all kinds of information about mindfulness. You can get guided meditations. And then they also have a free app called Mindful, which is wonderful. If I wake up at 2 in the morning, I'll put on a body scan meditation and put in my earbuds, and pretty soon I'm asleep. So keep in mind that that's a good resource for free things. You can also pay for classes if you want, but I don't think that you have to. I think that you can get self-help books and other resources and develop your own mindfulness practice without spending a lot of money. So the model that I use of ACT with the young people I work with, it's a nice, simple way to think about the ACT concepts. It breaks down our psychological spaces into the discoverer space, the noticer space, and the advisor space. So the advisor space is basically our self-talk and our thoughts. So if I was stuck, say I'm a child who has math anxiety, or an adult who has math anxiety, I could go into all kinds of thoughts. You can't do this. You're not good at math. Don't even try. You should just go home and pretend you're sick, or, all kinds of thoughts I could go into with my advisor to avoid doing what makes me anxious, which is math. Or I could step into noticer space and become aware of the sensations in my body, recognize that I'm feeling anxious. My palms are sweaty, my stomach feels weird. I do kind of feel sick. I think I'm anxious. The noticer space is really where mindfulness lives, and it's our ability to be in the present moment and recognize what's going on with us. Then I could step into the discoverer space and be willing to try something new. And I could talk with myself in my advisor space about, math is hard for me, but I can learn and I can ask for help, and the teacher can help me. And then I'm in a different space, and I've just found a way to get unstuck. So moving between these psychological spaces is one way of looking at psychological flexibility. Then we also learned that our values are a compass that really guide our behaviors. So when someone is having, maybe struggling with a behavior, being able to align behaviors, or talk about, does that behavior align with your values, is very useful. We also learn that our strengths are what we do, not what we are. Again, the focus is on behavior. So if I think my strength is that I'm a kind person and I was just super rude to my husband, I might go into I'm not kind. I thought I was a kind person. I'm not a kind person. I'm terrible. I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. But with using ACT techniques, I could go to a different space. So I could go to, wow, I really value being kind. And that was an unkind thing I did. I think I'm going to apologize and just go back to being kind. So it's a kind of a healthy way that when we make errors, instead of beating ourselves up about them, we can just go back to what we value. A&D is a method that we use in DNAV, but this is a technique that's used throughout many therapeutic techniques. Anyway, it is around the world is a research-based intervention for mental health. And it's simple. So it's just pausing, becoming aware, noticing the sensations in our bodies, and then describing it as a feeling. So the more we understand our feelings and can recognize them, it's incredibly helpful to us. So that's something that we focus on. That's something that I use all the time. I'm not feeling right. I'm going to pause. What am I feeling in my body? Oh gosh, that is anger. I'm feeling angry. What am I mad about? And it allows me to kind of separate myself from my feelings, take a pause. No, I don't have to act on my feelings. I can just recognize them and let them be. And they pass eventually, which is another thing that I always teach to students, that all feelings are normal. The work of Carla McLaren, she's an emotions researcher. She's got some great books out there. She teaches that feelings are our basic cognitions. We really need our feelings and all of them to survive in this world. All feelings have a purpose, and they're kind of like balloons. They get larger, smaller, they deflate, they float away. And sometimes they get so big they pop, but they're always changing. And then also expanding your feelings vocabulary is also very good for our mental health. So I always have a feelings wheel for the students that I work with, so they can really think about what feelings they're having and describe it. And there are more feelings than even in this wheel, but this is a nice one. Self-compassion is a really important component of mindfulness and also of acceptance and commitment therapy. I have kids who are very compassionate towards other, but when I bring up the idea of being compassionate to themselves, I had one student say to me, I don't know how to do that. So, it was uncomfortable for that student to think about offering himself the kind of self-compassion that he offers others. But what we learn through mindfulness and ACT is that we need to start with ourselves, accept ourselves non-judgmentally, and offer compassion and kindness to ourselves. Kind of step out of any harsh self-judgments that we might have. So there are lots of resources on ACT. The Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life is Stephen Hayes, one of Stephen Hayes's books that was very popular. The Happiness Trap by Dr. Russell Harris is awesome. I also like the illustrated version of the Happiness Trap because it takes the concepts and puts them into pictures. And I find that really useful for students that I work with who have autism or ADHD, where, oftentimes people with autism do very well learning through visual modalities. And for my students with ADHD, sitting down and reading a book could be really taxing, but looking at a picture to get a concept is really helpful. And then the DNAV model has some books also. There are many more books on ACT out there, and I will send a list of resources to Maggie this weekend so that she can send them out to you all if you're interested in learning more. I did want to show a video. I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I think I'm going to start with the Face COVID video by Dr. Russ Harris, because it really takes those ACT concepts that I just talked about and applies them to the situations that we're facing right now. So let me see. Are you able to? You're probably not able to see this, huh? I think I have to go back in and reshare with you. Sorry. I'm going to have to make this bigger. And new share. Okay. I'm just going to share my desktop and do it that way. It's the best I can do. And go to, oh, I know I pulled this up already. There we go. Okay, can you all see that?
When we face a crisis of any sort, fear and anxiety are inevitable. They are normal, natural responses to any challenging situation infused with danger and uncertainty. Face COVID is a set of practical steps for dealing with such situations. F is for focus on what's in your control. You can't control what happens in the future. You can't control coronavirus itself or the world economy or what other people do, and you can't magically control your thoughts and feelings. Fear, anxiety, and worry are inevitable, but you can control what you do here and now. So let's focus on that. A is for acknowledge your thoughts and feelings. Silently and kindly acknowledge whatever is showing up inside you. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, sensations, urges. With curiosity, notice what's going on in your inner world. You might say to yourself, I am noticing feelings of anxiety, or I'm having thoughts about getting sick, or I'm having feelings of loneliness. And as you continue acknowledging your thoughts and feelings, bring in the next step, which is C, come back into your body. Find your own way of connecting with your physical body. For example, you might try slowly pressing your feet hard into the floor, or slowly pressing your fingertips together, slowly stretching your arms or your neck, or shrugging your shoulders, or slowly breathing. And as you acknowledge your thoughts and feelings and come back into your body, you then move to E, which is for engage in what you're doing. Get a sense of where you are here and now and refocus your attention on the activity at hand. Notice 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear. Notice what you can touch and taste and smell. Notice what you are doing and give your full attention to that activity. And then C is for committed action. This means effective action guided by your core values. Action you take because it's important to you, even if it brings up difficult thoughts and feelings. Of course, this includes following official guidelines on what to do during this crisis. But in addition, ask yourself regularly, what can I do right now, no matter how small it may be, that improves life for myself or others I live with or people in my community? And whatever the answer is, do it and engage in it fully. O is for opening up. This means making room for difficult feelings and being kind to yourself. As this crisis unfolds, we'll all feel fear, anxiety, anger, sadness, guilt, loneliness, and so on. We can't stop these painful feelings from arising, but we can open up and make room for them. Acknowledge they are normal, allow them to be there even though they hurt, and treat ourselves kindly. Consider what are kind words you can say to yourself and kind things you can do for yourself to help you cope with this suffering. V is for values. Committed action should be guided by your core values. What do you want to stand for in the face of this crisis? What sort of person do you want to be as you go through this? How do you want to treat yourself and others? Your values might include love, respect, humor, patience, courage, honesty, caring, openness, kindness, compassion, or numerous others. Look for ways to sprinkle your values into your day and let them guide and motivate your actions. I is for identify resources. Identify resources for help, assistance, support, and advice. This includes friends, family, neighbors, health professionals, and emergency services. Make sure you know the emergency helpline phone numbers, including those for psychological help if required. D is for disinfect and distance. Remember to disinfect regularly and practice physical distancing for the greater good of your community. Please run through the steps of Face COVID as often as you can for the benefit of yourself, your loved ones, and all the people in your community.
Okay, I have some other videos, but maybe we should end it there since we've got 6 minutes left.
Claire, could you put that last slide up again? I noticed some people were taking pictures and I'd like to do that myself.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Let me see if I can get it back. I might have to reopen the whole thing.
Oh, well, that's okay.
I will send it out to you all in a resource document this weekend.
That'd be great. Thank you so much, Claire. Anybody have any questions or thoughts or feelings or responses to this presentation that they want to?
Claire, that slide presentation you just did, Face COVID, that's a great teaching tool. Is it okay to use that or forward it to schools, school districts, et cetera, that kind of thing?
That's on YouTube. It's the work of Dr. Russ Harris, who wrote the book, The Happiness Trap, and which I had here somewhere. But anyway, yeah, there are all kinds of resources on YouTube around ACT that are little videos like that, that are visual and super useful. So what I'll do this weekend is I'll make up a document for Maggie that has a bunch of links, and then people can go in and explore as they want. And that one will be there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Karen.
Claire, what's the difference between mindfulness and meditation?
Well, mindfulness, you don't necessarily have to meditate, although that's really valuable, but basically it's present moment awareness and being non-judgmental and curious about what you happen to be feeling and experiencing. With students, I do a lot of using our senses to be in the present moment. Like we do mindful eating, mindful listening, we take mindful walks where we're paying attention to what's going on through our senses. And particularly for children who've had trauma, closing their eyes and meditating or trying to visualize is sometimes counterindicated. So, and for kids who really can't settle down to do meditation, we just do mindful activities where we're focusing our attention and kind of building our attention muscle through sensory activities, like could be mindful touch, like Play-Doh and, touching different things that have different textures. We do mindful smelling with essential oils or other things like spices and such. So really like using our senses to kind of bring us into the present moment. With mindfulness, we really learned that we could be in the past and not be present, or we can be in the future and not be present. Depression can sometimes be related to, past experiences. Anxiety might be related to future experiences. But if we can bring ourselves into the present moment through whatever activities it happens to be, we can be in a much better space and actually be, living our life, which is unfolding right now.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for Claire? I was struck by reminded by that, they say that people who volunteer and do for others and are connected in that way are happier than people who don't. And the connection of when you're really caught up in your own feelings and stuff, being able to really look at it and do what you say, but then that piece of then following your values and reaching out and doing something for someone else sometimes takes you out of that personal focus on, woe is me. And it always makes me feel better. So,
Hey, Maggie.
Connecting. Yeah, Rebecca.
I guess I wanted to say thanks to Claire. This is very timely. I guess I didn't anticipate this to be so timely. I have had the most emotional couple of weeks, this week in particular. So thank you. I'm looking forward to the follow-up resources. I took some pictures and scribbled some notes. It was very, very powerful. And just so I guess in terms of ACT, I spent last night and actually have been working this morning on my postcards to the HSU students. I think Romy sent out an email. So in terms of something that we can do, I've been just, definitely feeling a lot of the current issues in our society with the violence against our Black community, and it's what can I do, right? So thank you, Romy. Actually, someone from work brought this issue up, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to tell Rotary, and Romy had sent an email, an hour before. So everyone, get your postcards in. I missed the first 5 minutes. I don't know if Romy said anything. I've got 9. I've got number 10 here, and yeah, thanks, Claire, and yeah, thank you. That's it.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying, Rebecca. Just it's hard. And especially, if you start looking into the future, it's hard. So anybody else? Well, I really appreciate that. I have a little certificate for you. I got to get back to that. I need to share this because that was really great, and thank you for that. And my mind is spinning and thinking about it, so I'm not speaking very well. But Claire, thank you. We're making a donation in your name to Tri-County Center for Independent Living. And I want to leave you all today with something that is not nearly as important as what just happened here, but I think it's something to be aware of. They finally have boneless donuts.